President Trump says he wants a trial. Did the FBI doctor a FISA report? Also, you have Hunter Biden getting $130 million under shady circumstances. Expert Fiona Hill was wrong on some stuff. And Attorney General Barr says that, yes, Epstein did kill himself. We got that and more coming up on the Buck Sexton Show. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. It's a fantastic Friday here in New York City. It sounds like I'm about to tell you the weather with that voice, but actually I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of other things. Much to get to today. It has been quite a week. Let's just say that impeachment stuff, it's not good enough from the Democrats. Not going to get it done. This is not moving the needle. So far, the hoax is going off the rails. The hoax is in a state of slow collapse. It's not going to be the thing that they were hoping it would be, which is the turning point against President Trump, the moment at which it is clear that he no longer has enough support in the center of our political discourse, particularly among Republicans in Congress who can get quite weak in the knees, sometimes could use a bit more spine. They're not flipping on Trump. In fact, you had Will Hurd, who is not an especially strong supporter of anything Trump. Will Hurd, who's a lame duck congressman, is not running again. Like me, he's an ex-Langley guy. So I do have always a degree of respect and camaraderie with my brothers and sisters who are formerly of Langley. But he even said, look, I don't like what the president did. It's just not impeachable, though. Impeachable's got to be big. It's got to be clear. It has to be something that when you say what it is, people go, oh, my gosh, really? That doesn't count with what the Democrats have done here. And you'll notice the way they talk about these things that have been at the centerpiece of impeachment is always editorialized, right? For example, if I were to tell you that President Bill Clinton lied under oath and committed a felony, that would have been a statement of fact. And then people can decide, and as we know, the Democrats decided, go to the mat for Clinton, committing a felony while you're president, no big deal. He's, our guy, doesn't matter. When you hear what the storyline is, and I actually heard this last night, I did Shannon Bream's show. Shannon is absolutely wonderful, by the way. If you ever get the chance to watch her show, I highly recommend it. She's very, very fair-minded and always, she's just first class all around. But I was on with Chris Hahn. I was one of these guys who's like, yeah, I'm a Democrat, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and, Buck doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's the usual thing of asking for dirt on your political rivals. That is an editorialized version of what happened. What happened is the President of the United States said, I heard some things about this, can you look into this? Can you find out what happened? About areas of legitimate concern, corruption, the 2016 election, and yes, in fact, Burisma and the Biden's connections to it. I'm telling you, one thing that I worry about here is that I am consistent in this approach. I am consistent in that what Trump did is not impeachable and is not, in fact, wrong. It's a little bit hard-nosed politics, sure. But he has the right to ask this. He asked this. He broke no law. He broke no regulation. To say this is an abuse of power is entirely a value judgment that should be left to the political system. But this is why they say, oh, he was going to dig up dirt on. That's not what he said. He said, can you look into this and get me answers? The Republicans who keep focusing on how nothing happened, and which I do think matters insofar as how interested can the American people really be in this matter when there was no consequence, no downside, no harm. So we're going to impeach a president for no consequence, no downside, no harm. That's a bit tough when you look at what I just talked about with Bill Clinton. The president being able to get away with committing a felony, which is what he did, and for which he was disbarred as a lawyer, and that is an assault on the system, and it is a violation of criminal law by the person who is in charge at the very top of our system of enforcing that law. saying that I want you to find out some stuff, and oh, by the way, it might be bad for somebody, but, that's tough. Guess what? President's allowed to do that. That there's not enough of a harm to justify all the effort on this. Because I worry that what you're going to see, Ambassador Bolton, who follows me on Twitter, by the way, which I was like, oh, wow, look at that. Captain Mustache himself follows me on. The guy's got a great mustache. If my beard was Bolton mustache level, I would be like one of the Duck Dynasty guys. Because those guys, we have producer Brandon here in the house today too. He's got a beard and a half. He's going to be filling in for producer Mark a little bit, so we're going to have some beard discussions. Do we talk beard oil? Do you have to comb the beard, or do you let it just kind of do its thing? But the reality of the Trump defense might come into some difficulties because people keep saying there was no quid pro quo. We can't prove the quid pro quo, all this stuff, which that is true in a sense. But what if they can prove that? What if next week you have a witness who comes forward or there's something that shows up and all of a sudden it is quite clear that the president said to somebody involved in this chain of transmission, maybe to Giuliani or Mulvaney, yeah, you got to tell them that there's not going to be this, we're going to consider a hold on this aid and perhaps even withdraw the aid unless they get us answers about corruption that involves Burisma. My position on this continues to be there is no violation of law. There is no high crime or misdemeanor in what the president did. And you also can't completely remove the context of a president who has been under investigation for over 2 years based on a lie. And that we're supposed to be like fine with that. That's not a big issue. But Trump, I think, is feeling strong enough on this that he has said that he wants the trial in the Senate to happen. Now, that will be very interesting for Democrats. There could be some real blowback to this one because then they get to have the Republican majority call the witnesses. Then this whole Schiff show that we see playing out where he does whatever he wants and he shuts people down and says that this witness can't speak. All of a sudden, Republicans are in that position. Now, I doubt that the Republicans, particularly in the Senate, which is supposed to cool the passions of the House, the Senate has this allegedly gentlemanly thing, or I don't know, gentle personly, whatever we're supposed to say now. I don't want to misgender the Senate. Good heavens. What are the Senate's preferred pronouns these days? Who knows? But we do have the possibility of subpoenas for witnesses that the Democrats aren't going to want to come forward. And then it'll be interesting to see, you'll have the same reporters who right now are telling everybody, hey, how dare the Trump administration not just turn over all of its books, forget about executive privilege, forget about anything, just give everything to the Democrats, every witness they want, and just let everyone get ground down by the machinery of this sham investigation. You will have those same reporters, those same voices, without missing a beat, without a hint of irony or any sense of shame. They'll turn around and say, Democrats don't really have to comply with this. This Senate process is a sham. This Senate process doesn't, the Senate trial, which I'm hoping that Mitch McConnell understands that you must exact a price or extract a price, whichever one people prefer to say. You must make it hurt a little bit for the Democrats to do what they have done. You can't just say, all right, we're going to let this thing die slowly in the Senate and who cares? No, this should be turned around on the Democrats, and I think the president understands that is what should happen. That is where his mind is. He was on Fox and Friends this morning, by the way, and I was watching it this morning, sitting there, drinking my coffee, eating a muffin, as one does, gluten-free, of course. And I was sitting there and watching, and the president, I think he spoke for 45 minutes this morning. It was amazing. The president's on the phone. The Fox and Friends couch folks are sitting there, and the president's just going off on all these different things. And I did have this moment where I realized, what a time to be alive, and what a time to be covering politics and involved in this discussion in this way. I don't think we could ever go back. Imagine how boring it would be if we had a President Romney calling into Fox and Friends. Don't worry. There's not going to be a President Romney unless he runs as a Democrat. Ho! True story, though. We have a big news story that I wanted to get to, and there's some interesting nuances here as well. I mean, basically, impeachment is falling flat so far, but be careful what the Democrats might pull. If they people shouldn't dig in on this quid pro quo. It's not a high crime or misdemeanor. It's not impeachable conduct. Even if what the Democrats say is true, the president should not be impeached. That is the ground from which we must fight and defend the position, because that is the truth. It is not impeachable. This does not arise to what the founders had in mind, nor does it arise to what any fair-minded person would have in mind for an impeachment proceeding. All right. With that, and remember who's telling you this. So see how, next week people say, oh, no, there is a quid pro quo. There's going to be a lot of moving around. Oh, here we go. CNN. Fiona Hill nails the case against Trump. No, I do not think that is true, but that is interesting. But I went to CNN because they have a story that CNN broke about whether there was abuse of FISA. Now, as we know, I think it's December, I can't remember if it's the 9th or the 11th, but it's coming up soon. They finally have a date that the Horowitz report. Now, this is different than the Durham report. It's tough to keep all these different investigations going. The Horowitz report, which is internal to the Department of Justice, it's the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, looking at specifically the FISA request. Remember, the spying technique used against President Trump's campaign during an election. That, every time you hear that, you should alarm bells should go off, that happened. You should also remember that Carter Page and George Papadopoulos were targets of this because of a conspiracy concocted by pro-Hillary Obama appointees at the top level of the government. And when initially people came out and said, hold on a second, were they spying on members of the campaign? Oh, it was a conspiracy. How dare you think such a thing? There's no deep state. We've gone from there was no spying to, of course, they were spying on the Trump campaign. And we've gone from deep state, what a nonsense conspiracy theory, to thank God for the deep state. You see people writing that piece now, writing this article, because we've seen too many people that are federal government employees who view their role as being a check, a break on Trump and what he's trying to do. They've taken it upon themselves to make that determination. So I would just note, my friends, that this CNN piece, there's going to be a lot of trying to massage the narrative here, because this is what we know so far. That someone in the FBI did something that is now a criminal matter. This is what the report is being looked at as a criminal matter, and changed a FISA report. Remember, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, it is the law, it is the mechanism that was used to pull in all of Carter Page's communications, which would have meant that anything in his email inbox and anything on his phone calls, and they can just like a vacuum cleaner, just grab all that stuff and look at it. And they thought that he was the center of some Russia-Trump conspiracy. Someone at the FBI changed something. Now, we don't have the full details, but changed something in that FISA application to the court, and did so in such a way that it would constitute criminal misconduct. Let's get into the implications for what it means here, that someone might not just risk their career, but perhaps even their freedom to lie in a FISA application. How many times have you ever heard of that happening before, my friends? In all the terrorism cases and all the history of the FISA court, which has been around for decades, you ever heard of criminal misconduct from someone in the FBI to change what's in the application to the FISA court? Oh, we'll get into this.
Obviously, based on what Evan is saying, there's a lot we don't know. But given the description he has provided, if there was an FBI agent sworn to uphold the Constitution who can be proven to have altered a document in connection with a legal proceeding, including the obtaining of a FISA warrant, that's really serious. It doesn't get a lot more serious than that. I'd like to know the details of what the nature of the change was, if there's a mistake in some way. Based on that reporting, it doesn't sound like it was. I want to keep an open mind about it, but that's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. The law enforcement agents and prosecutors who work with them are sworn to uphold the Constitution, sure, but actually even exceed the protections in the Constitution. They have to be of the utmost integrity and the utmost candor, and when especially you're making a representation to the court, which is what a FISA application is, it's got to be on the up and up. And I know there's been a lot of political fighting about whether or not there was proper candor. There was this back and forth with the House within the House Intelligence Committee when the positions were reversed between Devin Nunes and Adam Schiff, and that looked like a lot of politics. This particular thing that Evan Perez has just broken the story on does sound serious.
So that's Preet Bharara, who is a legal analyst now at CNN, having previously been the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, perhaps most well known for conducting very public and very political, and in some cases people felt very grandstandy prosecutions of insider trading. That's what Preet Bharara. He used to have a big press conference and talk about how these people were insider trading and they were so terrible. He sent away somebody. I had dinner sitting next to someone once, not long ago, who got sent away for a couple of years for insider trading, and he said that Preet was could not have been more of a headhunter on this one, just going after somebody. He wanted to rack up a prosecutorial body count, throwing people in the slammer anyway. But of course, this guy served time, but he said Preet was completely unfair, stone cold about the whole thing. All right. However, what Preet said about legal ethics, not that I think he necessarily is somebody that should be speaking about that, but what Preet said about legal ethics and how you're supposed to be more ethical even than just not breaking the law is true. Well, I think that's an excellent place to start the discussion about, hold on a second. So how could an FBI lawyer, mind you, how could an FBI lawyer be so over the line that not only would that, usually the FBI, there's a whole list of different sanctions. It was very similar to the CIA. Are you going to get suspended? Are you going to get your clearance pulled? Are you going to get fired? You're going to get criminally investigated? You had to do something really bad. How could a lawyer at the FBI find himself or herself in this position? Yeah, all right. So we're talking about this CNN story that tells us a lawyer, they say a low-level lawyer, when I've been talking to some of my people about what qualifies as a low-level lawyer? Because the obvious name that comes to mind, and I do not have any source on this, and I don't know if this is true, but the obvious name that comes to mind for this situation would be, I was going to say Fiona Hill. That's the NSC person who was talking. Yes, we'll get to Fiona Hill later. I can't do. You know what it is about Fiona Hill that upsets me? Her British accent sounds a little Irish. It's a little kind of in between, a little funky. I can't do a good Fiona Hill, and it's driving me crazy. Anyway, not that that's important at all, but it's important to me. The Lisa Page is the name that most people think of. You will recall Lisa Page was the very senior lawyer, so it would be a strange error of reportage to say that a low level, because she's a very senior lawyer at the FBI, I believe one of the most senior, and she had an affair with Agent Struck, who was then fired from the FBI and who engaged in some pretty reprehensible conduct and is clearly deeply anti-Trump. Deeply anti-Trump. We know that. All right. I don't think this could be Lisa Page, though, just because the low-level lawyer tagline that they're using here would not apply. No reasonable person could say Lisa Page was a low-level lawyer. It's not. However, it's possible that maybe they're trying to dampen the impact of the story a little bit. They're trying to lessen the fallout. Just turn down the temperature a little bit so this thing doesn't boil over. And so they say, low level. Well, yeah, I mean, Lisa Page she's not the attorney general or the deputy attorney general. So I guess low level lawyer FBI, that kind of qualifies. We'll see. I don't know. But isn't it fascinating that CNN breaks this story or has this story? Why would someone go to CNN with this? Let me tell you why. And I still love it. Do we ever get to have a full accounting for how Brian Stelter, the day after CNN was there at 5 o'clock in the morning when Roger Stone is getting arrested by like half of SEAL Team 6, and Brian Stelter's like, we're just good journalists. Like, no one leaked that to us. Right. And CNN was all indignant. Oh, how dare you think that we would find out in advance? Never. CNN is just about the facts, just about the truth. I can't even keep a straight face of talking about this stuff anymore. Such a clown show. I mean, I will open invitation to any. I mean, some of them listen to that. They'll hear this show here and there. They'll hear some of the clips. I know because they've DM'd me and getting all mad at me in the past. Why do you say that about me, Buck? And any CNN anchor that ever wants to have a debate about whether CNN's a real journalism organization, open invitation. Open invitation. Anybody, I'll even take the anchors that no one even knows their names. Any CNN employee. The CNN's I think it was head of communications or something, some corporate role. Tried to come after me once on Twitter, and he learned unwise move. So he's not gonna. I don't think he'll do that again. But nonetheless, why would CNN get this story? Now we get into the uncomfortable part of this, because clearly in advance of the Horowitz report, and we've been waiting for this for a long time, and the basics here are there's a belief among many of us that games were played in order to get the FISA warrant, to look at Carter Page, and to get the investigation going against Papadopoulos, and that there were people who were manipulating the system behind closed doors in order to give some official teeth to the Russia conspiracy theory, right? The Russia-Trump conspiracy theory. And by the way, they intentionally conflate when we say Russia conspiracy or Russia-Trump conspiracy. They say, oh, they're saying that Russia didn't interfere in the election. Russia didn't interfere in the election. It didn't make a difference. It's not as big a deal as they say it is. But Russia-Trump collusion did not happen. And anyone who says it did is just impervious to facts. Facts don't matter. Reality doesn't intrude on their belief system. But they have to get ahead of this Horowitz report. You know, there's a desire, I think a very clear desire from people inside. And this is where it's not even just never Trumpers and anti-Trumpers and leftists and this is another component of the deep state. If you think of the deep state, there are really different subcomponents to it. There are different tribes within the deep state. And one of them is the bureaucrat before all else mentality. People who believe that even if they have to betray the ideals they claim to uphold in that institution, protecting the institution itself is worth that trade-off. You know, that whatever you have to do to defend the FBI, whatever you have to do to defend the CIA, it's worth breaking the rules. It's worth refusing accountability in any one specific instance because of the damage it would do to the overall institution. FBI is, stopping people from being kidnapped and stopping terrorists and, people that are sex trafficking kids. And the FBI does all this great stuff. And by the way, the FBI does do a lot of really great and important stuff. The FBI agents I've worked with and known in my life, I've really liked and gotten along with very, very well. The FBI's got a ton of great people, which is another thing that look, it bothers me too. Some of my closest friends in the world are CIA to this day. And Brennan has if the CIA was a stock, it has plummeted because of Commie Brennan running around calling the president a traitor. And I feel badly for my friends who really are showing up and doing what you think of as the CIA. They're doing that job. It's these senior appointees and people with political aspirations and who get a little too much of a taste of power inside these institutions. They're the ones that we've seen stepping outside the lines and doing bad stuff. But the bureaucrat before all else mentality might be a big part of what we see play out here, because they're going to say, and I'm going to make a little bit of a prediction, Producer Mark, maybe we should even we should probably mark this one down, just so that in the future when the report comes out December 9th through December 11th, because unless it's hockey or movies, I'm always right. So that's
Yes, of course. Well, I won't be here, so producer Brandon will have to call you out if you're right or wrong.
Oh, you'll be like in Tahiti or something.
I'll
right?
be in Jamaica, inebriated. I didn't even say the word right. I'm already drunk.
Jamaica, poor you.
Yeah.
Just wear your sunblock, all right? Just wear your sunblock.
I will. Or I'll come back
Don't be that
as
guy
a
that
tomato.
shows up. Don't be that guy that shows up on the first day and just gets scorched. There's always that dude you see at the resort who's like, I'm gonna get a really good tan and just
ruin your whole vacation.
I mean, I'm basically Irish, right? So it's like this, you can peel off my entire first layer of skin if I don't put on sunblock. So it's bad.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin the whole vacation with a sunburn.
Correct. Yeah. Do not let that happen. It's like the fastest way, short of picking up some kind of a bug from drinking the water in a bad place, to ruin your vacation is to just get that scorched, and then you get like the blisters and stuff from the. Yeah, and everyone's like, nice job, dude. They don't sell sunblock in the gift shop, huh? All right, so my prediction, though. This is the prediction that I was going to talk to Mark about, because this report is going to come out. Actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. When we come back, I'll actually tell you what it is.
For the last 3 years, it's not President Trump who got caught. It's the Democrats who got caught. They got caught falsely claiming they had more than circumstantial evidence that Trump colluded with Russians to hack the 2016 election. They got caught orchestrating this entire farce with the whistleblower and lying about their secret meetings with him. They got caught defending the false allegations of the Steele dossier, which was paid for by them. They got caught breaking their promise that impeachment would only go forward with bipartisan support because of how damaging it is to the American people.
And it looks like they got caught amending in criminal fashion some aspect of the information going into a FISA report to get surveillance of Carter Page in the hopes of unearthing a conspiracy, an international conspiracy to overturn, or to cheat, I should say, in the 2016 election. It looks like they've gotten caught on that too. Now, I remember years ago, I told those of you on Team Buck who have been with me now for, really it does feel like an extended family, because I've had people listening to me since 2012. So we're going on 8. This will be year 8, I think, starting in January. But I remember when we were talking about Benghazi, and which happened obviously before the 2012 election, or rather, right before the votes were cast. And I remember we were talking about Benghazi, and I said, if Obama wins, do not expect there to be any accountability. Doesn't mean there shouldn't be an effort, but just don't get your hopes up about. And people, Buck, why don't you have more faith, man? And this is America. And I got a lot of heat. Yeah? How many Democrats got in big trouble for Benghazi? What accountability was there for Hillary Clinton or for Barack Obama or for Susan Rice for lying on national TV about, a video started it? Where was the accountability? There was no accountability. Zero. Who was responsible for the security lapses? Well, the thing about a bureaucracy is that everybody is responsible and nobody's responsible at the same time. That is by design, my friends. So I said that about Benghazi, and unfortunately I was right, but I was right because I understand how these things work because of my time in the CIA, dealing with the slothful, bureaucratic mindset. And the CIA is lean and mean compared to the Department of Education or something. The CIA has actually got it's got a lot of elite people. It's got a lot of clowns and jackasses too, but there's some very excellent people who work there. I'm here to tell you, and this is what I meant about my prediction, that nobody's going to be held really accountable for FISA abuse. They're going to say that it was. Now, there may be this one criminal probe changing it. They will, if the person still works at the FBI, they might lose their job. But that'll be it. That'll be it. And people have lost their job for a lot less. So don't think that that's some huge sanction that they would be facing. But the problem we're going to run up against is the classic answer you get from within government agencies whenever there is malfeasance, and especially political malfeasance. Remember the IRS targeting. Sure, Lois Lerner back in, what was this, 2011, 2012? Lois Lerner of the IRS, I think she ended up, she stepped down, and so she knew that there was, but there were a lot of other people that were involved in that, and we never got justice for that. Operation Fast and Furious, Eric Holder, telling gun dealers down along the southwest United States, along the Mexico border, sell to that straw purchaser. Those guns get sent down to Mexico. One of those guns is used to kill border agent Brian Terry. Who in the Obama administration was held responsible for that? Nobody. In fact, they claimed that it was a conspiracy to think that was a conspiracy. Even though it was a conspiracy. It was literally people getting together to come up with an idea to do something illegal under the guise of law enforcement, which then led to even more guns in the hands of Mexican cartels, who then kill a lot of people, including U.S. border agent. No accountability there. Go down the list. What accountability have we really seen within the FBI up to this point? Oh, a little bit. Strzok and Page. But my friends, you look at Peter Strzok, the agent, and McCabe. McCabe is lying under oath. The guy's committing a felony. And they haven't even criminally charged him yet. And I don't think they're going to. He's going to work out. They're going to give him probation or something. It's just because people who have to make these decisions, it's very hard for them. It's very hard for them to bring themselves to eat their own. They won't do it. And I don't mean, these are not, forget about the deep state never Trumper types. I just mean people that work in these institutions. They get this mindset of, think of all the good we do at the Department of Justice or the FBI. Think of all the good we do at the CIA. You want to undermine all of that because of one jerk? No, I mean, the jerk will maybe get fired or resign or something, but we can't really come down on them that hard because there'll be collateral damage to the rest of the institution. And so we have to protect the rest of the institution. We have to make sure that they limit the full-on damage. That's what it is, my friends. That's what I think you are most likely to see here. You are most likely to see some movement toward, all right, we found out about this and it's bad, but it wasn't done in bad faith. It'll be anti-Trump. Whatever happened here with FISA, it'll be anti-Trump, but it won't be so clear and egregious that that's why it was done, that the people that are behind this, that are in charge of this, nothing happens. Nothing will change. They'll say, there was a legitimate reason to have some suspicion of Carter Page under the circumstances. I just disagree with that. I just don't think that's an accurate view, or I should say that's not a view that reflects any judgment, but do not expect justice from within the bureaucracy against people in the bureaucracy. We could almost say this is a rule. Little fish, like the small fries, the people that nobody really cares about, they'll get fired. But these are not people that are just showing up. These are people that are higher up the food chain at these massive federal government institutions. And they, the people that have to make the decisions don't want to come down too hard on them. So this is my way of saying, don't get your hopes up about the Horowitz report. I think there'll be some interesting stuff in there. And maybe the reason that CNN had this story is because they're trying to, like I said, dampen this. They're trying to just take a little bit of the heat out of it. And so somebody who is part of this little cabal at DOJ or wherever is like, hey, we got to get this to CNN so they can prepare people to find out that there might have been criminal malfeasance in getting a spy warrant against a member of a political campaign in an election year. I mean, this is the biggest political scandal of our lifetimes. No question. Bar none. Number one, by far. And there won't really be a full accounting of what happened. It's just, by the time, I think Durham will get to some interesting stuff. He's the U.S. attorney up in Connecticut. But by the time we find out what Durham has, I mean, Trump is going to have built the whole wall, and Nikki Haley or Donald Trump Jr. or whatever will be running for president. It's going to take years. It's going to take years.